What's good in the hood? UFC Fight Night Qatar. Boop, boop, boop. Sarukian versus Hooker. This one is a good one. And that's how they do it. Dana White knows best when you go to a Middle Eastern country. You give them a fight night, but you give them a fight night that's pay per view quality. Now, this one isn't as good as some of the past ones, but it's definitely very good. And in the interest of saving people's time, because it is the weekend and I'm getting this out late, and I don't want to kill all y'all's attention and brain cells, we're gonna stick to just the top end of the card because the top end of the card is damn good, and we're gonna jump right into it. Balal, what's his name? Remember the name Muhammad versus Ian Machado Gary, Mister Two Last Names. I had a buddy back in the day who had two last names, so I'll give it to him. It's not unheard of, so don't hate him on too much for letting him take his wife's last name. But regardless, this is a very interesting, compelling fight. No less because we have a new welterweight champion and two new contenders that emerged in Michael Morales and Carlos Pratas. But Ian Machado Gary, he's got a bone to pick. He has a win over Carlos Pratas. He only has one loss in the UFC. He's tall, he's lanky, he's smart, he's got a mouth, he's Irish. Connor, daddy issues. I didn't say that, but no, nonetheless, Ian Machado Gary, he's a solid fighter. He's only got one loss since the Shavkat, and if you've watched that, and you should go watch it, JK, you shouldn't, other than seeing Ian's shorts getting torn up. That's how much time he was spent against the cage getting humped. And I like Shavkat, so that's not a dig at him. But regardless, Ian, very good fighter. Bilal, very good fighter. Bilal, former champion. He's achieved the top of the mountain, and he's looking to come back and get it, even if it's against one of his fellow brothers in love, Islam. He's got to get past Ian Machado Gary, who 16-1. Overall, he's a very, very talented fighter. And it's very compelling because at the end of the day, Bilal Muhammad, Mr. Canelo Hands, you know what that means. Zero knockdowns. Woo! Zero knockdown average in 15 minutes. Bilal Muhammad, we all know what he does best. He grapples, he puts pressure. He's got no power in his hands, although he has a TKO against Sean Brady that's aged fairly well-ish. Bilal Muhammad, very heavy grappler, 75% decision rate, but he has a lot of good wins. He's only got a few losses in the UFC, and up until recently, he was on like a 7 or 8 win streak. He's beaten guys like Leon Edwards, Gilbert Burns, Sean Brady, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And even though his fights are not entertaining, at the end of the day, he wins. And he won a lot. And the JDM fight, my honest opinion was I think he got a little too cocky. He was the champ, and he thought, I can do whatever I want to JDM, and I can strike with him. I can take him down at will. And as we saw, there's levels to this game. Levels. And he was not at that level that Islam was when it came to just imposing the will. And also Bilal, I think, for lack of better words, did push the striking a little too much early on. Took some damage. And then the moment you get a little sweaty, it ain't as easy to hold a man's hips down. But yeah, Bilal versus Ian, it's a good old striker versus grappling matchup. Ian, very long, very rangy. He's got a 2.5-inch reach advantage. He's got a 4-inch height advantage. Leg reach 2 inches. Long story short, he's tall, he's lanky, he's big for the division. Bilal, not small. He's definitely got some size. Kind of looks weird with that. I don't know why. The picture, his body type looks a little funky there. Maybe it's just because he has an oversized head. Who knows? But how's this fight gonna happen? How's this gonna play out? It's 3 rounds, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's 3. Bilal wanted 5, and it makes sense because if this is supposed to be Ian's, title eliminator fight, he should go 5 rounds. I think just for the fans' eyes, let alone his own, just on perception of how do you go into the championship rounds. But it's not. It's 3 rounds, and I think that definitely favors Ian. Ian, he's long, he's rangy, and he's good at distance management, and he's good at circling. And I think these are all skill sets that if he employs correctly, they're going to make Bilal's life a living hell. I mean, Bilal, he has next to no power. Ian, he can get cracked, but I feel like Ian's one of those people where he's definitely tough, and after he gains access to, as they say, the data, and he realizes like kind of the distance management and his end reach, so he can start doing the jab and pushing things like the leg kick, he's not going to be afraid of Bilal. Now, Bilal, I think if he's smart and he doesn't employ the Canelo hand strategy, which he said in the presser this week that he seems like he's going to again push the striking. Red flag, brother. Do not do that. The fact that he has 0 knockdowns and was almost 20 fights says as much. Sure, he has a TKO win here and there, but at the end of the day, he's a good pressure fighter. He can get in your face. You're probably not going to submit him, and he's probably going to take you down and get a lot of control time. And that should be his game plan against Ian. Ian's game plan is obviously to counter that, keep a lot of distance, constant movement, put Bilal at times maybe on the back foot, pressure him. Use that cage as a good defensive mechanism as needed if you get pushed, so you can use that over under and try to escape, circle out. Do I expect Bilal to take him down? Hell yeah. Ian was taken down by Shavkat, and I would say Shavkat is a worse wrestler than Bilal, who's a worse wrestler than Islam, and Ian's eventually got to fight Islam. So where I'm going at that is Islam or Ian. Ian's young. He's like around my age. Ian is like, he's definitely learning fight by fight, and it's been pretty clear. The Shavkat fight exposed that Ian's main weakness is the takedown, and I expect him to be a lot more sharp, knowing that that's going to be Bilal's get out of jail free card the moment he tests Canelo hands and realizes that A, he's got no power, B, he's at a disadvantage on the reach, and C, he's just not dynamic, in my opinion, enough with the kicks and the strikes to impose his will on Ian. So he's going to be pushing the takedown. Ian, I think, he's gonna game this in the sense that Bilal probably will get a takedown early on. They're dry. If you've never grappled, go grapple. It's the moment you get sweaty, it's a lot harder to lock those hands, to keep that body lock, whatever it is, the 2-on-1. So it's like Bilal, and you're in the Middle East too, so it's gonna be probably a little more humid and hot. I'll say this: Bilal is probably gonna get a takedown first round, because he's going to be real fast too, right? He's going to be fresh, and I don't think he's going to be stupid enough to purely strike that round. He's going to push the takedown while he's testing out the striking against Ian. They're both kind of feeling each other out, so I think he might be able to connect with Ian because he's not a terrible striker. He just has no power. That's the reality. So I think he can catch him with a jab, maybe a 2, kind of catch Ian off guard, and then by then hopefully kind of get into that range where he can push the takedown against the cage, take him down. And that's where the danger is Ian going to get stuck on the ground, which he could for like a minute or two, and that results in Bilal getting, a squeaky first round. But I feel like Ian, he's just so smart. Like, he knows what he's going to expect, and he has a game plan for it. But I feel like he's very good at adapting, where he collects that data, he converses lightly with his coaches. The coaches are obviously going to support him. And the reality is, the second round, he's going to adjust heavily. And Bilal, he's just, for lack of better words, he's too one-dimensional. Got some gas building up in my throat. Whoopsies. Oof. But yeah, I think Bilal, he's not going to be able to adapt, and since he has no finishing potential, he's got to win a decision. He can squeak a round, maybe he squeaks the second round. Ian's going to adapt, and the reality is they've been adjusting, or they've been following the rules that they always had, which was damage first. And Ian, on paper, has all the damage potential. Bilal has none, and Bilal has no, I don't think, submission threats either. So unless he can kind of do a light piece up on the feet combined with some grappling and just general ground control, riding time, all that, however you want to put it. This fight is tailor-made for Ian to win, and tailor-made for him to get into that, top 3 spot. I expect Ian to, even though he wants to finish, and he said he wants to finish in the first round, I guess they all say that, and Ian's no different, and he's definitely one of the more cocky ones, for better or worse. I expect Ian to do what he's done in his last, honestly, handful of last couple fights. He hasn't gotten that many finishes in the last few. Let us see. Carlos, decision, 5 rounds. Shavkat, he lost by decision. MVP, that was supposed to be a banger. He was getting outstruck, and he gamified it. He was trying to do some distance management. He was throwing a takedown in that case because that was MVP's kryptonite. Jeff Neal, another decision. This one was split. Obviously, the Magny one, very good performance, but it was heavily just based on I can kick the crap out of you and compromise your movement, but I couldn't finish you. So his last finish, despite having some interesting, highlight reels, his last finish was May 13th, 2023. Which makes me think, I don't think he's going to get the finish. I think this one's going to go to a decision, possibly a split decision, but they're going to favor Ian because Ian's going to have damage. Bilal's going to look like he got damaged up on his, oversized face. And it's going to... Ian, I don't think he's going to get the title shot, and I don't think Ian is in a position right now where he can win against Islam. But it's going to put him in a position where he might get, I won't say a rematch because he doesn't need the rematch with Carlos, but if Carlos, let's say, beats Morales or whatever it is, or however they match that up, Ian's in position where he's probably in a title eliminator, or maybe gets a rematch Shavkat. But I'm going to go with Ian. I think it's actually funny, too, because it's like Bilal. He's the decision man, but I feel like Ian, as we just saw recently, he's so good with game planning and playing it safe, damage control, that distance management, where I feel like Ian, in some ways, is the king of decisions of just, he knows how to win. And he knows how to add just enough element of suspense, and think back to that Carlos fight where, the 5th round, maybe he chose to do somersaults and front rolls while he's in danger. Who knows? But yeah, Ian, he if it was 5 rounds, this would be, I think, in some ways a lot more compelling. And we at least would get to see how Ian looks. He looked okay in the Carlos fight, but obviously by the 5th round, he was deflated. Regardless, the main event, this one, very compelling. You have Arman Tsarukyan, who was the number 1 contender, still is the number 1 contender, but he hasn't fought in... He has not fought, I believe, in... I can't use tabs, why not? Modern technology, tabs. He has not fought since April 13, 2024. That is a year and a half, 18 months. I can't even fathom that. Obviously, he's stayed busy by doing these grappling, events, this and that. He's definitely training. There's that. He's got Hamzat now in his training camp, it looks like, and he's gonna be in his corner. So he definitely does his due diligence in the sense of staying ready for these opportunities. And clearly, he was never gonna get the title shot. UFC does punish you when you pull out, rightfully so. 2 days notice on a back strain, or I think it was around because I was flying. I remember when I was in the airport when they announced that, when Renata Marcono Moneybags was replacing him. That was on less than 2 days notice. So Arman definitely shortchanged the UFC with that one, and then that main event ended up being kind of a stinker. It was not compelling at all. But yeah, Arman, he's the number 1 contender. Dan Hooker, the man, the hook, the hangman. He's been around a bunch. He's had wars. He's had losses. I mean, just look at this win-loss record. 22-3. Solid record for Arman. He only has 2 losses in the UFC. 1 to Gamrot, and it was a split decision. So and I thought he won that one. So you can put an asterisk on that one. And then his first loss was to Islam, and that was on a short notice, and it was his debut in the UFC. And he looked good. He got a takedown against Islam, one of the few men to ever take down Islam. So he has a really good track record. Obviously, Dan has the longer track record, 36 fights. A lot more losses, but he also has a lot more fights in the UFC, and he's been through the ringer in the sense of we've seen him in danger, and he's come back. Let's look. Too many tabs. He's interesting because let's load a little bit back. He's on a 3-fight win streak against Gamrot, contender, ranked guy. Jalen Turner. He's still in the UFC. He's actually come out of retirement. The Tarantula is actually coming back around December, which is very exciting. Puelas. Hope I said that right. He's a ultra jiu-jitsu. He was just doing a constant amount of chasing the leg, this and that. Imanari roll. Dan essentially just killed him with body shots. Very interesting fight if you want to see what happens when you have very one-dimensional fighter in the sense of pure jiu-jitsu versus a fairly well-rounded MMA guy. Did not go well for Puelas. But before that, he had dropped down to featherweight. Didn't have a good showing against Arlen Allen. Before that, he just alternated some wins and losses. Obviously, he had the tough KO to Chandler on Chandler's debut. That loss has aged poorly. It's Chandler. I don't even know where he is in the rankings anymore. He might be out at this point. He obviously had the war where he lost around 10 years of his future lifespan. Going 5 rounds to Poirier. Took so much damage in that fight. Took a lot of damage in the Felder fight too. I guess the point being is he's been there, he's done that, and Obviously, there's always concern for a guy that has been to the ringer. He tends, at least recently, I've noticed too, he has a lot of scar tissue in that Nate Diaz type category where, like, you take one elbow, boom, he's going to bust open like a grape. And there's obviously real concern for that because Arman, he's obviously at the end of the day a grappler. He can strike and he has power, so there's that too. But unlike some of the grapplers we see and some of us hate, Arman, he goes for damage on top. Like when he's on top, he's throwing elbows, he's throwing bombs. He was doing that against Oliveira, who's, like I said, one of the more dangerous guards to be in, either just because, he's a submission threat or he's actually throwing damage from bottom himself. Like Arman, this fight, just like I think the fight before, it's definitely tailor made for Arman to get a good squeaky win and move back to that position of, if he doesn't get the title shot, at least he's established for like the next one, right? Like obviously he's facing stiff competition. Patty, big name. Justin, big name. Justin, probably the most entertaining of the three to get the title shot. Patty, coming off a solid win with Chandler, more active and has probably the biggest fan base. But Arman, on paper, was the most deserving up until his hiatus. But yeah, Arman, he's a little smaller, right? He's got a 2.5 reach disadvantage, a massive 5-inch height disadvantage. I don't like that. And I think Hooker on paper is just, he's more well-rounded. He has submission threats. Like, as we saw, go watch his fight with Gamrot. Like, Gamrot would take him down, right? And that's obviously great because I expect Arman first, just like with the Bilal fight. I think Arman, easy takedown threats he's going to get first 2, maybe 3 rounds because they're dry. Arman's super fresh. He's very good at penetrating deep into the hips for those, whereas other guys that kind of like shoot half-ass, for better words, and a guy with decent reaction can stop that stuff. Arman, he's very good at that. He's good at chain wrestling. So even if Dan does like get against the cage, I think Arman can definitely thread and do like a body slam type thing. Grab both hands and lock them and all that. But Dan's a dog. I mean, Dan has jiu-jitsu. Obviously, he's been submitted by guys like Islam, but at the same time, Dan, he survived early threats from Gamera when he got hurt and he got taken down. He was getting ground and pounded. And when he gets back up, I feel like he's that kind of guy that, just like in some ways Machado, but with a little more recklessness to it, it's like he starts to recognize, like, hey, if he doesn't think this guy can finish him, he's going to put his chin out there and do tit for tat and take damage to give damage. And that's frankly how he won the Gamrot fight. I mean, Gamrot cracked him a bit. Gamrot had the massive takedown threat, but he was cracking Gamrot back, and then it got to a point where Gamrot's getting hurt. Gamrot's getting tired, so the takedown threat's a lot less risky. And Hooker at times was threatening the guillotine too. I mean, these wrestler guys, if they put their head way too much to the side of the body, it's there. And it's one of those things where Dan, he's got that reach, he's got that length. And in some ways that could, hinder Arman, like really threaten him. At the end of the day, if Arman, I think, can get him taken down, he just keeps like in his guard, half guard, all that kind of stuff, tries to go for mount, it should be slim pickings. Arman should be able to scrap his way, break Dan, do enough damage where he's bleeding, and couldn't even get just like a good old, doctor stoppage TKO type thing of like, oh, it's the 3rd or 4th round. Dan's taking a lot of damage. Dan's bleeding. Arman has like either mounts him or he's just in guard and he's just dropping elbows. And if Dan's not doing anything from bottom and he stays there for a little too long, the ref will stop it. But this, I feel like in some ways could be Arman's undoing, where it's just like Dan's that kind of guy where he it's a straightforward win, but there's just some risk. And Arman, he has a chin, but he's been cracked numerous times if you go watch some of his older fights, and he's been caught in submissions too. So it's like I like them both. So like in some ways, I'd love to see Dan get this redemption arc where he now gets his first crack at if he gets the BMF, whatever. Like he gets a crack at gold, but it's just Arman's just he's too well trained, and he has such a strong base in wrestling, which I truly believe. And as we're seeing this with Hamza and Islam, and for better or worse, like having a strong wrestling base with awareness of like submission threats from bottom and all that, or wherever they may be, as long as you don't have a risk of getting submitted by some ace, taking a guy down and getting into their guard or half guard or whatever it is, or controlling them to the cage, along with modest striking ability, is like tailor-made to get through most of your given division until you face someone that you can't take down and you're forced to strike with. And that's a question now of, do you have a chin? Are you a dog? Can you fight? And we see sometimes with these wrestlers, and Bo's not the best example, but he is a high-level wrestler. He couldn't impose his will against RDR. And then you find out, these guys, like, maybe they don't have that toughness. They don't have that chin. But I think Arman, he's definitely been through some tough fights. He's definitely a dog. Not as big of a dog as Hooker. But at the end of the day, you just can't. I don't bet, and I treat these like I'm a betting man, and you can't, even with the value of assuming Hooker's a fairly big plus 300, plus 400 underdog. I don't know why the UFC doesn't list it here. Come on, dog. You're $1 billion company. You don't have odds listed, but you want us to gamble? Come on, Dana. You're a gambler yourself. You have to pick Arman. Arman's a safe bet. It's just a question of how much is he willing to risk to impress, the bosses to, squeak into the title fight. Because he wins a competitive fight, probably won't get it. He wins a boring decision, 50-45. Better chance he gets it, but might not get it. If he finishes Dan and he finishes him within like the first 2 to 3 rounds, he's probably going to get it. And it helps the fact that Ilya is going to be cornering his brother. So that means Ilya, they're probably going to put him in the front row. It's prime for Arman to get that shot. And it could be good timing too, because if he doesn't take damage, well, he's going to take some damage from Hooker unless he catches him in the first round. Oh boy, the gas is blowing up my throat. Something's there. But if he can avoid damage, get a finish, or just get a clean 50-45, a lot of top control, he could be set up, and he might not like this. It might not be ideal circumstances, but if they're going to do Ilya on like the first or the second Paramount card, that's going to be in the January-February realm. We're in around Thanksgiving, over at least in this part. So we're in third week in November. That's going to ask him to do around 2 to 3. It's going to be 8 to 10 week turnaround, give or take. Probably 8 weeks. So Arman's in a good position where he's been on a 15-month turnaround. He can go from securing his title shot to getting the title shot to then, potentially defending on like the White House or something. So this is all tailor-made for him. It just comes down to, can he execute his game plan and impose his will, and can he avoid getting caught by Dan? But yeah, my official prediction, I think, is going to be 4th round TKO. 4th round. I think Dan can have enough dogfight and not get caught, where it's going to take a couple rounds to wear Dan out, and at least to cause enough visual damage where the refs would either consider stopping it, or like the doctor stop it right between rounds, or just for like the ref to stop it for the sake of, we know this guy's taken a lot of damage before, so he's a little more prone. I feel like refs to a degree will do that, where it's like, if a guy's coming in like a Nate Diaz or something, you just know, like, they've already lost a lot of their good brain cells, like in past fights, for better or worse. Like, you don't want to let them go out, on the shield the 10th or 15th time. And I don't know. Regardless, yeah, I'm taking Arman 4th round decision, 4th round TKO. Though decision's probably the most likely outcome. I'm betting that he can get at least something. He can get some sort of finish to a degree. Even if it's not the cleanest or the most profound, he's going to get it. And I honestly hope he gets the title shot. I think he should get it, and then you can take Justin versus Patty. That's, I think, a very fun, maybe put that as the co-main, so that one of them serves as the backup on the Paramount card. But yeah, that's my take. But we'll find out in less than 24 hours. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, and I hope to have some more content Sunday to see how things play out.